My name is Nadine Carter, and I'm 71 years old. For the past 15 years, I spent every single Mother's Day completely alone. No calls from my 3 children. No cards. No flowers. No acknowledgement that I even existed. While other mothers were being taken to brunch and given handmade gifts from grandchildren, I sat in my quiet house pretending it was just another Sunday. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for last Mother's Day when all 3 of my children showed up at my door at 8 a.m. with flowers, gifts, and tears in their eyes, begging me to forgive them. "Mom, please," my daughter Karen said, crying on my doorstep. "We're so sorry. We know we've been terrible. We know we've neglected you. But we want to make it right. Please give us another chance." My son David was holding an expensive bouquet of roses. "We love you, Mom. We've always loved you. We got caught up in our lives, but we're here now. We want to celebrate you." My youngest, Brian, was holding a card signed by all my grandchildren I'd never met. "Mom, the kids made this for you. They want to meet their grandmother. Please, let us in." I stood in my doorway, looking at the 3 children I'd raised, who'd abandoned me for 15 years, who'd ignored every Mother's Day, every birthday, every holiday. And I said 4 words that shocked them to their cores. "This isn't my house." "What?" Karen looked confused. "What do you mean this isn't your house? You've lived here for 30 years. "I sold it 6 months ago. I don't live here anymore." "Where do you live?" David asked. "That's none of your business. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm house-sitting for the new owners and I have things to do." I closed the door in their faces. Through the window, I watched them stand there, stunned, holding their guilt gifts and their tears. What they didn't know, what I was about to tell them in the most satisfying way possible, was that I'd bought a beach house. A beautiful 3-bedroom house right on the ocean, worth $800,000, paid in full. And I'd done it specifically so that when they finally came crawling back, because I knew they would eventually, they'd realize exactly what they'd lost. But before I tell you how I bought that beach house, before I reveal what happened when my children finally tracked me down, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Click it. Then smash that like button, because this story is about to show you what happens when children take their mother for granted for too long. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, because you're going to want to see how this ends. How a woman who spent 15 Mother's Days alone ended up with the last laugh. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I need to know who's here with me today. Because what I did, disappearing and starting over at 71 years old, it's going to show you that it's never too late to choose yourself. Never too late to stop waiting for people who don't appreciate you. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you how a mother ends up spending 15 years invisible to her own children. To understand what happened, you need to understand my relationship with my 3 children. I have Karen, who's 52, David, who's 49, and Brian, who's 46. I raised them mostly alone. My husband Robert died when Brian was just 12 years old. Heart attack, sudden, devastating. I worked 2 jobs to keep them in good schools, in nice clothes, in activities they wanted to do. I sacrificed vacations, retirement savings, any kind of social life. I was a devoted mother, the kind who never missed a school play, a soccer game, a parent-teacher conference. And my children turned out well. All 3 went to college. All 3 got good jobs. All 3 got married and had children of their own. I was proud of them. But somewhere along the way I became optional. It started gradually. Karen moved 3 states away for her husband's job. At first, she called every week, then every month, then only on major holidays. David got busy with his career in finance, working 70-hour weeks, always stressed, always apologizing for not having time to visit. Brian, my baby, got married to a woman named Jennifer who didn't like me. I never understood why. I'd been nothing but kind to her, but she made it clear I wasn't welcome in their lives. Still, for the first few years after Robert died, we maintained contact. We had family dinners a few times a year. They called on Mother's Day and my birthday. But then grandchildren started arriving. Karen had 3 kids, David had 2, Brian had 4. 9 grandchildren I barely knew. Because once my children had their own families, I became even more invisible. Mother's Day became about their wives being celebrated. My birthday was forgotten. Christmas cards stopped coming. I'd call and leave messages that were never returned. I'd send gifts to the grandchildren and never hear if they'd been received. I'd invite them to dinner and get polite excuses about how busy they were. 15 years ago, on Mother's Day, I realized I was waiting for calls that weren't coming. I sat by the phone all day, nothing. I thought maybe they were planning a surprise visit, nothing. By evening, I'd called all 3 of them. Karen's husband answered. "Oh, Nadine, Karen's not available right now. She's celebrating Mother's Day with Jennifer's mom. They do a big thing every year. Can she call you back?" She didn't call back. David's phone went straight to voicemail. Brian's wife, Jennifer, answered. "Brian can't come to the phone. We're at a Mother's Day brunch with my family. You understand?" I understood. I understood that I didn't matter anymore. That was 15 years ago, and every Mother's Day since had been the same. Silence. My children had moved on with their lives, built families that didn't include me, decided I was no longer necessary. And I stayed in my house, the house where I'd raised them, waiting for them to remember me. Pathetic, right? But I didn't know what else to do. They were my children, my whole world. I'd built my entire identity around being their mother. Without them, who was I? 3 years ago, something changed. I was at the grocery store on Mother's Day Sunday, alone as usual, buying food for one. At the checkout, the cashier, a young woman maybe 25, smiled at me. "Happy Mother's Day. Did your family do anything special for you today?" I forced a smile. "No, not this year." "Oh, are they surprising you later?" Something like that. As I drove home with my groceries, I started crying. Hard, choking sobs. Because I was lying, to strangers, pretending I had children who cared, pretending I mattered to anyone. And I was 71 years old. How much longer was I going to live like this? I got home and did something I'd never done before. I looked at my bank statements. Really looked at them. I'd been working part-time at a library for years, just for something to do. The money went into my account and I barely paid attention to it. But when I looked at the balance, I was shocked. $340,000. I had $340,000 in savings. How? I went through old statements. For 15 years, I'd been living on almost nothing. My house was paid off. I had no debt. My expenses were minimal. Meanwhile, I'd been saving my library salary, my Social Security, the small pension from my job before Robert died. For 15 years, the money had just been accumulating. Because I had nothing to spend it on. No grandchildren to spoil, they never saw me. No vacations, I had no one to go with. No home improvements, why bother? I just existed and saved money without meaning to. $340,000. I sat there looking at that number, thinking about what it meant. I could do something with this money, travel, move, start over. Or I could keep sitting in this house, waiting for children who were never going to call. That's when I made a decision. I was going to buy a beach house. I'd always loved the ocean. Robert and I had honeymooned at the beach. We talked about retiring there someday. But then he died, and I put those dreams away to focus on raising our children. Now the children were raised, and they didn't want me. So why was I still living for them? I started looking online, beach houses, coastal towns, places where I could start over. I found it 3 months later. A small beach town 5 hours from where I lived. A 3-bedroom house, 2 blocks from the ocean. Listed at $850,000. Too expensive. I only had $340,000. But I called the realtor anyway, just to see. The house had been on the market for over a year. The owners were desperate to sell. They'd already dropped the price twice. What would they take? I asked. The realtor came back with $720,000. Still too high. I can offer $680,000. Cash, close in 30 days. 2 days later, they accepted. I sold my house, the house where I'd raised my children, for $380,000. Combined with my savings, I had just enough. I bought the beach house, paid cash, no mortgage. At 71 years old, I packed up my entire life and moved to a town where no one knew me. I didn't tell my children. Why would I? They hadn't called in years, they wouldn't notice. I changed my phone number, didn't give them the new one. I closed my social media accounts, not that my children ever checked them. I just disappeared. And for the first time in 15 years, I felt free. The beach house was beautiful. Hardwood floors, big windows with ocean views, a back deck where I could sit and watch the sunset. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. Colors Robert would have hated but I loved. Art that made me happy. A garden I could tend. I made friends with my neighbors, joined a book club, volunteered at the local animal shelter. I started living, really living, not just existing and waiting. 6 months after I moved, Mother's Day came around again. I woke up in my beach house, made myself a beautiful breakfast, sat on my deck with coffee, watching the waves. No sadness, no waiting for calls that wouldn't come. Just peace. Around 10 a.m., my phone rang. My new number that only a few local friends had. Unknown number. I answered, "Hello." "Mom," Karen's voice. "Mom, is this you? I've been trying to find you for weeks." How did she get my number? How did you get this number? Your neighbor, Mrs. Chen, from your old house. I went there looking for you and the new owners said you'd been house-sitting while they were on vacation. Mrs. Chen gave me your new number. Mom, where are you? Why did you move without telling us? Why does it matter? You haven't called in 3 years. That's not true. Karen, the last time I spoke to you was my 68th birthday. You called for 5 minutes, said you'd visit soon, and I never heard from you again. That was 3 years ago. Silence. Mom, I'm sorry. I know we've been absent, but you can't just disappear. I can. I did. And I'm happier than I've been in years. Where are you living? We want to see you. No. What? No, Karen. You don't get to ignore me for 15 years and then demand to know where I am the moment it's convenient for you. Mom, please, we love you. Do you? Because love is an action, not just a feeling. And your actions have shown me for 15 years that I don't matter to you. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt powerful. For the first time ever, I'd set a boundary with my children. Over the next few weeks, they all tried calling, leaving voicemails, begging to know where I was. I didn't respond. Then, last Mother's Day, 1 year after I'd moved to the beach, they showed up at my old house. That's where this story began. Me, house-sitting for my old neighbors who were on vacation. My children showing up with guilt gifts. Me closing the door in their faces. After I shut the door, I called the realtor who'd sold my old house. Someone's going to come asking where I moved. Don't tell them. Legally, I can't disclose that anyway. Client confidentiality. Good. I watched through the window as my children stood on the porch, arguing among themselves. Finally, they left. I thought that was the end of it. But 3 days later, Karen, David, and Brian showed up at the beach house. I was on my deck, reading a book, when I heard the doorbell. Through the window, I saw them, all 3 of them. They'd found me. How? I opened the door. How did you find me? We hired a private investigator, David said. Mom, we need to talk. No, we don't. You bought a beach house, an $800,000 beach house. Karen was looking at the property with obvious shock. $680,000 actually. And yes, I did, with my own money. Where did you get that kind of money? Brian asked. I saved it for 15 years, while you all forgot I existed. We didn't forget, Karen started. Yes, you did. You absolutely did. And now that you've found out I have money and property, suddenly you care. Suddenly you want a relationship. The three of them looked at each other guiltily. That's not why we're here, David said. We're here because we realized we've been terrible children. We want to make it right. It's too late. It's never too late. Yes, Karen, it is. You had 15 years to call me, 15 Mother's Days to acknowledge me, 15 years to introduce me to my grandchildren. You chose not to. Now I'm choosing not to let you back in. Mom, please, Brian started crying. I know Jennifer kept you away. I know I should have stood up to her, but I'm here now. 15 years too late. I started to close the door. Wait, Karen put her hand on the door. Mom, there's something you need to know, something important. It's about your money, about this house. You're in danger. I paused. What are you talking about? Can we please come in? Please, 5 minutes. Then if you still want us to leave, we will. Against my better judgment, I let them in. We sat in my living room, my beautiful living room that they were seeing for the first time. What danger? I asked. Karen pulled out some papers, legal documents. Mom, you were scammed. The person who sold you this house, they didn't actually own it. You bought a house from someone who committed fraud. The real owner just found out and they're suing. You could lose everything. I felt my blood run cold. That's impossible. I used a real estate attorney. Who was in on the scam? Mom, we found out because David works in financial fraud investigation. One of his colleagues recognized your name on a list of victims. You're not the only one. There are a dozen people who bought properties from this same fraud ring. No, this can't be happening. We're going to help you, David said. I'm already working with the authorities. We might be able to recover some of your money, but Mom, you might lose this house. I looked around at the home I'd built, the life I'd created, the freedom I'd finally found. And I realized my children had shown up not out of love, but because I was in trouble and they felt obligated to help. Get out, I said quietly. Mom, get out of my house, now. But the legal case. I'll handle it myself. I don't need your help. I don't want your help. You lost the right to help me 15 years ago. Mom, you're going to lose everything. Then I'll lose everything. At least I'll lose it on my own terms, not because I let you three back into my life out of desperation. They left, looking hurt and confused. After they were gone, I looked at the legal documents they'd left behind. And I realized something. They were right. I'd been scammed. I was about to lose everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I sat on my beautiful deck overlooking the ocean, staring at the legal documents my children had left behind, trying to understand what had happened. According to the papers, the person who sold me this house, a man named Thomas Fletcher, didn't actually own it. The real owner was someone named Margaret Peterson, who'd been in a nursing home for 3 years with dementia. Fletcher had forged documents, created fake deeds, and sold properties he didn't own to unsuspecting buyers. Me, I was one of those unsuspecting buyers. I'd paid $680,000 cash for a house I didn't legally own. The real owner's family had just discovered the fraud and was suing to get the property back, which meant I could lose the house and the money. Everything. I felt sick. How could I have been so stupid? I'd used a real estate attorney. I'd done title searches. I'd done everything you're supposed to do when buying property. But apparently, the attorney, Michael Brennan, was part of the scam. He'd created fake documents that made everything look legitimate. He was now in jail, but my money was gone. I called the only person I trusted, my friend Clara from the book club. Clara, I need help. Can you recommend a good attorney, one who specializes in fraud? What happened? I explained everything. Oh, Nadine, I'm so sorry. Yes, I know someone. Her name is Patricia Montgomery. She's excellent. Let me give you her number." I called Patricia that afternoon and made an appointment for the next day. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about losing this house, this life I'd built, this freedom I'd finally found. And I kept thinking about my children showing up, trying to help. Part of me wanted to call them back, accept their help, let them be involved. But the stubborn, hurt part of me refused. They didn't get to waltz back into my life just because I was in trouble. The next morning, I met with Patricia Montgomery. She was a sharp woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. "Mrs. Carter, I've reviewed your case. I'm not going to lie to you, this is bad." "How bad?" "You paid $680,000 for a house you don't own. The real owner's family has every legal right to reclaim it. And while you can sue Thomas Fletcher and Michael Brennan for fraud, they've already been convicted and they have no assets. The money is gone." "So I lose everything?" "Not necessarily. There are a few options. First, you could try to negotiate with the Peterson family. Maybe they'd be willing to sell you the house at a reduced price, given what you've already paid." "I don't have any more money. I spent everything on this house." Then option 2, you could file a claim with the state's Victim Compensation Fund. But that typically covers a small fraction of losses, maybe $50,000 at most. That's it. I lose $630,000. "Unless we can find another way. Mrs. Carter, tell me everything about how you found this property, every detail. Sometimes there are angles we can work." I told her everything. The online listing, the desperate sellers, the quick closing. "Wait," Patricia said. "Who were the desperate sellers? Who did you think you were buying from?" "Thomas Fletcher said he was selling for his aunt, Margaret Peterson, who was moving to a nursing home. He had power of attorney." "But he didn't actually have power of attorney." "No, it was forged." Patricia made notes. "And the listing was on a legitimate real estate website." "Yes, through a real estate agency called Coastal Properties." "Did that agency know the listing was fraudulent?" "I don't know." "That's what we need to find out. Because if Coastal Properties listed the property without doing proper verification, they could be liable. They have insurance for exactly this kind of situation." Hope flickered. "You think I could sue the real estate agency?" "Possibly. Let me investigate. But Mrs. Carter, this will take time. Months, maybe a year. And in the meantime, the Peterson family is going to want their house back." "When?" "According to the lawsuit, they're demanding possession within 60 days. 60 days? Where am I supposed to go?" "That's something you need to start planning for. I'm sorry." I left Patricia's office feeling devastated. 60 days. I had 60 days in the home I loved before I'd be evicted. And then what? Go back to my old town, rent an apartment with the little money I had left. I drove home, to the house that apparently wasn't mine, and sat on the deck crying. My phone rang. Karen. I almost didn't answer, but I was so tired of being alone with this. "Hello." "Mom, have you talked to an attorney yet?" "Yes." "What did they say?" "That I'm probably going to lose the house, and most of my money." "Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. David and I have been talking. We want to help. We can contribute to legal fees or help you find a new place." "I don't want your money, Karen." "Why not? We're your children, we should help." "You should have helped 15 years ago, by calling, by visiting, by being present in my life. I don't want your guilt money now." "It's not guilt money." "Yes, it is. You feel bad that I'm in trouble, so you're trying to fix it to make yourselves feel better. But where were you when I wasn't in trouble? Where were you all those Mother's Days when I sat alone waiting for the phone to ring?" Silence. "Moms, we were wrong, we know that. We've been terrible, but we're trying to make it right." "Too late, Karen. I'd rather lose everything on my own than accept help from children who only showed up because I'm in crisis." I hung up. But after I hung up, I sat there wondering if I was being stupid. Pride was one thing, but losing everything because of pride. Maybe I should accept their help. No, I'd been strong for a year. I'd built a life without them. I wasn't going to fall back into needing them just because things got hard. Over the next few days, Patricia investigated coastal properties. She called me a week later with news. Nadine, I found something. Coastal properties did list your house, and they should have verified ownership before listing. Their own policies require it, but the agent who handled the listing, a woman named Diane Marsh, she cut corners. Never actually verified the ownership documents, just took Thomas Fletcher's word for it. So they're liable. Possibly. I've contacted their insurance company. They're investigating. But Nadine, there's a complication. What? Diane Marsh claims Fletcher showed her documents that appeared legitimate. Says she had no reason to doubt them. The insurance company is arguing that she acted in good faith and shouldn't be held responsible. But she didn't verify. I know. We're arguing that she was negligent, but it's not a sure thing. This could go either way. How long until we know? Could be months. And Nadine, you still have the eviction to deal with. The Peterson family's attorney filed an expedited motion. You have 40 days now, not 60. 40 days to find somewhere to go. I'm sorry, I'm doing everything I can. After Patricia hung up, I sat there trying to figure out what to do. I had maybe $20,000 left in savings. Everything else had gone to the house purchase and moving expenses. $20,000 wasn't enough to buy anything, barely enough to rent for a year. And I was 71 years old. No steady income beyond Social Security and my small pension. For the first time in a year, I felt hopeless. That evening, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find all 3 of my children standing there again. Before you slam the door, David said quickly, we have an offer, just hear us out. I don't want your money. It's not money, it's a place to stay. Karen has a mother-in-law suite in her house. It's empty. You can stay there, rent-free, until you figure things out. I looked at Karen. Your house is 3 states away. I know, but Mom, it's yours if you want it. No strings attached. You can have your own space, your own entrance, complete privacy. We won't bother you, but you'd be close if you needed anything. Why would you do this? Because you're our mother, Brian said. And we've been horrible to you. We can't fix the past, but we can help now, please let us. I wanted to say no, to keep my pride intact, to maintain my independence. But I was tired, so tired. I'll think about it, I said. That's all we ask, Karen said. After they left, I sat on my deck watching the sunset, thinking about my options. Move in with Karen and accept their help, or struggle alone and possibly end up with nothing. The next morning, I called Patricia to check on the case. Any updates? Actually, yes. Good news and bad news. Which do you want first? Good news. The insurance company for coastal properties has agreed to settlement negotiations. They're not admitting liability, but they want to avoid a lawsuit. They've offered $150,000. That's it. I paid $680,000. I know, but it's better than nothing. And Nadine, if we go to court, we might lose completely. This is a guaranteed $150,000. What's the bad news? The Peterson family won't negotiate on the house. They want it back, period. And the judge agreed with them. You have 30 days now. The eviction is proceeding. 30 days. I'm sorry. Take the settlement, Nadine. It's the best we're going to get. After I hung up, I did the math. $150,000 from the settlement plus my $20,000 in savings. Total, $170,000. I'd paid $680,000 and was getting back $170,000. I'd lost $510,000. More than $500,000, my entire life savings. I sat on my deck and cried, not quiet tears, big, ugly, sobbing cries. I'd been so stupid, so naive, so desperate for a fresh start that I hadn't been careful enough. And now I was 71 years old with $170,000 to my name and nowhere to live. My phone rang. It was my old neighbor from my previous house, Mrs. Chen. Nadine, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do? I don't think so, but thank you for asking. Your children have been calling me, asking about you. They seem very worried. They shouldn't be. I'm fine. Are you? Nadine, forgive me for being blunt, but you don't sound fine. I started crying again. I lost everything, Helen. The house, my savings, my fresh start, everything. Not everything. You still have your children. They weren't there for 15 years. But they're there now. I've talked to them, Nadine. They're genuinely remorseful. People make mistakes. Sometimes it takes a crisis to wake them up. So I should just forgive them. Pretend the last 15 years didn't happen. No, but you could let them help you now, and maybe slowly rebuild something. After we hung up, I thought about what she'd said. My children were offering help, a place to stay, support. Was I really going to refuse out of pride? That evening, Karen called. Mom, I know you said you'd think about it, but I need to tell you something. The mother-in-law suite I offered, I had it built specifically for you, 5 years ago. What? I built it hoping you'd come visit, hoping we could reconnect. But I was too ashamed to reach out, too embarrassed about how long it had been, so it's just been sitting empty, waiting for you. Karen. Mom, I know we were terrible, all of us. We got caught up in our lives and we forgot what mattered. But we never stopped loving you. We got lazy. We took you for granted. And by the time we realized it, so much time had passed that we didn't know how to reach out. You could have just called. I know, and I should have. We all should have. But Mom, we're here now. Please, let us help. Let us start making up for lost time. I was crying again. I don't know if I can trust you, any of you. Then don't trust us yet. Just accept the help. Come stay in the suite. We'll prove ourselves through actions, not words. What about Jennifer, Brian's wife who hated me? They're divorced, have been for 2 years. Turns out she was isolating Brian from everyone, not just you. He's remarried now to a wonderful woman named Sophie who's been asking to meet you. And David, where's he been? Buried in work, using it as an excuse to avoid dealing with how guilty he felt. But Mom, he's here now. We're all here. Please, give us a chance. I sat there on my deck, watching the ocean I'd have to leave in 30 days. And I made a decision. Okay, I'll come stay with you, temporarily, until I figure out what to do next. Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. But Karen, I'm not ready to forgive you yet, any of you. You're going to have to earn that. I understand. We'll earn it, I promise. 3 weeks later, I moved out of the beach house. The house I'd loved, the life I'd built, the freedom I'd found. I watched the movers pack up my furniture, my belongings, my dreams. And I cried. But this time, I wasn't alone. Karen, David, and Brian were all there, helping me pack, loading boxes, being present. For the first time in 15 years, my children were actually there for me. It didn't fix the past. It didn't erase the loneliness or the hurt. But it was something. On my last day in the beach house, I stood on the deck one final time, looking at the ocean. My phone buzzed, a text from Patricia. Settlement finalized. $150,000 will be in your account within a week. I'm so sorry we couldn't get more. I texted back, thank you for trying. Another text came in, this one from an unknown number. Mrs. Carter, this is Margaret Peterson's daughter, Linda. I'm the one who sued to get my mother's house back. I wanted to reach out personally to say I'm sorry for what happened to you. You were a victim just like my mother. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. I stared at that text. The person who was evicting me was apologizing, offering to help. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't respond. I locked the door to the beach house for the last time, got in Karen's car, and we drove away. 3 states away, to a life I didn't want, with children I wasn't sure I could trust. But at least I wasn't alone anymore. That had to count for something. Right. As we drove, Karen tried to make conversation. The suite is all ready for you. Your own bedroom, bathroom, small kitchen sitting area. And Mom, the grandkids are so excited to meet you. I don't know if I'm ready for that. That's okay. We'll go at your pace. We drove in silence for a while. Then Karen said something that made my blood run cold. Mom, there's something I need to tell you about why we really came looking for you. It wasn't just guilt. There's something else. Something you need to know about Dad, about how he really died. I turned to look at her. What do you mean? Your father had a heart attack. He died instantly. That's what we told you. But Mom, it wasn't a heart attack. And there's something about his death that we've been keeping from you for 33 years. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I stared at Karen as she drove, my heart pounding. What are you talking about? I was there. The doctors told me Robert had a heart attack. No, Mom. We told you he had a heart attack. The doctors told us something different. Karen, what are you saying? She pulled the car over to the side of the highway, put it in park, turned to face me with tears in her eyes. Dad didn't die of natural causes. He killed himself. The world tilted. What? He took pills. A lot of pills. It was deliberate. The doctors said it was suicide. No, that's not possible. Robert would never. He left a note for us, not for you. He made us promise never to tell you. I couldn't breathe. Why? Why would he do that? Because he was in debt, serious debt, gambling debt. He owed almost $200,000 to some very dangerous people. They were threatening him, threatening us. He thought if he died, his life insurance would pay off the debt and keep us safe. But I got the life insurance. I used it to raise you kids. The insurance company almost didn't pay because it was suicide. But the policy had been in effect for more than 2 years, so they had to pay. We used part of it to pay off Dad's debts without you knowing. The rest went to you. I sat there in shock, trying to process this information. Why are you telling me this now, after 33 years? Because we think Dad's death is connected to what happened to you. How could it possibly be connected? The man who scammed you, Thomas Fletcher, his real name is Thomas Fletcher Brennan. He's the son of Michael Brennan, the attorney who helped scam you. And Mom, Michael Brennan was Dad's bookie, the man Dad owed money to when he died. My hands started shaking. You're saying the people who scammed me are connected to your father's gambling debts. We think so. David's been investigating. He found connections between the Brennan family and Dad's old gambling ring. And Mom, we think they targeted you specifically because of Dad. That was 33 years ago. Why would they target me now? Revenge, maybe. We don't know, but the timing is suspicious. You get money saved up, you buy a house, and suddenly you're scammed by people connected to Dad's past. It can't be coincidence. I felt sick. So my fresh start, my beach house, losing everything, it was all because of Robert, because of debts from 30 years ago. We don't know for sure. That's why David's been investigating. But Mom, if we're right, this isn't over. You could still be in danger. Danger from what? They already took everything. Maybe there's more they want. Maybe they think you have more money hidden somewhere. Or maybe this is just the beginning. Karen started driving again. My mind was reeling. Robert hadn't died of a heart attack. He'd killed himself because of gambling debts. And now, 33 years later, those same people had destroyed my life. Why didn't you tell me? I asked quietly. About Robert, about the suicide, about any of it. Because Dad asked us not to. He said you'd been through enough, that you didn't need to know he'd been weak, that he'd failed us. I had a right to know. You did, and I'm sorry we kept it from you. But Mom, I was 19 when Dad died. David was 16. Brian was 12. We were kids. Dad made us promise. And we kept that promise. Even when I spent 33 years thinking I had a happy marriage to a good man. Your marriage was happy, Mom. Dad loved you. The gambling, that was his demon, his secret. He kept it from all of us until the end. We drove in silence for an hour. Finally, I said, tell me everything about the investigation, about the Brennan family, about what David found. Let's wait until we get to my house. David's flying in tomorrow. He can explain everything he's discovered. It's complicated. We arrived at Karen's house late that evening. It was beautiful, a large colonial in a nice neighborhood. The mother-in-law suite was separate from the main house, connected by a breezeway. Just as Karen had described, bedroom, bathroom, small kitchen, sitting area. "I'll let you get settled," Karen said. "But Mom, I'm glad you're here, really glad." After she left, I sat in the quiet suite, surrounded by my belongings from the beach house, and I cried. For Robert, for the marriage that apparently had more secrets than I'd known, for the fresh start I'd lost, for everything. The next morning, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find a little girl, maybe 7 years old, holding a plate of cookies. "Hi, Grandma, I'm Emma. I made you cookies." Behind her stood a woman in her 30s, smiling. "I'm Sophie, Brian's wife. Emma is our daughter. She's been so excited to meet you." I looked at this child, my granddaughter, who I'd never met. "Hi, Emma. Thank you for the cookies." "Mommy helped. Can I come in and see your house?" I hesitated, then stepped aside. "Sure." Emma bounced in, looking around with wide eyes. "This is so cool. You have your own house inside our aunt's house." "Something like that." Sophie smiled apologetically. "I hope this isn't too much. Emma's been talking about meeting Grandma Nadine for days." "It's fine, I'm still getting adjusted." "I understand. We'll get out of your hair. But Nadine, if you need anything, Brian and I are just 10 minutes away, and we'd love to have you over for dinner sometime." After they left, I sat with the cookies Emma had made, thinking about grandchildren I'd never known. That afternoon, David arrived. All 3 of my children gathered in Karen's living room. They'd asked me to join them for the discussion about their father and the Brennan investigation. I sat in an armchair, looking at my 3 children, adults now, with families and careers and lives I knew nothing about. "Okay," I said, "tell me everything." David pulled out a folder. "Mom, I work in financial fraud investigation for the FBI. When Karen told me what happened to you, I started looking into it, and I found some disturbing connections." He laid out documents on the coffee table. "Thomas Fletcher Brennan is Michael Brennan's son, like Karen said. But the Brennan family has been running scams for decades. Real estate fraud, identity theft, insurance fraud. They're a criminal enterprise." "How does this connect to your father?" I asked. "Michael Brennan ran an illegal gambling operation in the 80s and 90s. Dad was one of his regular clients. When Dad died owing $200,000, we paid it off using the insurance money. But apparently the Brennans kept records." "What kind of records?" "Everything, names of clients, amounts owed, how debts were paid. And 30 years later, they used those records to target the families of former clients." "Why?" "Because they figured those families might have money, might be vulnerable, might be easy marks. And Mom, you fit the profile perfectly. Elderly woman, living alone, recently came into money. They researched you, found out about your savings, and targeted you specifically." I felt sick. So this was all planned. They deliberately scammed me. "Yes, and you weren't the only one. We've identified 12 other victims, all connected to Michael Brennan's old gambling clients. All elderly, all scammed out of their savings." "How much total?" "Over $8 million. The Brennan family has been running this operation for 5 years. Brian spoke up. "Mom, the good news is that David's investigation has led to arrests. Thomas Fletcher Brennan and Michael Brennan are both in custody. The FBI has frozen their assets. There's a chance victims might recover some of their money." "How much of a chance?" "Small," David admitted. "The Brennans spent most of the money, but there are some assets that could be liquidated. Maybe victims will get back 20, 30 cents on the dollar. So instead of losing $510,000, I might only lose $400,000. It's better than nothing." I stood up. "Is that all? Is that why you brought me here? to tell me I was deliberately targeted and there's almost no chance of getting my money back. "No, Mom," Karen said. "We brought you here because we wanted to protect you, and because we wanted to finally tell you the truth about Dad. The truth that he was a gambling addict who committed suicide and left you all to lie to me for 33 years. Mom, I need some air." I walked out of Karen's house and back to my suite. But I didn't go inside. I kept walking, down the street, through the neighborhood, not really knowing where I was going. My phone rang. I ignored it. It rang again and again. Finally, I answered. "What?" "Mom, it's me," Brian's voice. "Please come back. There's more we need to tell you about Dad, about why he really killed himself. It wasn't just the gambling. What else could there possibly be? Just come back, please." I walked back to Karen's house. All 3 of my children were waiting on the porch. "What else?" I demanded. "What else did your father do?" Karen took a deep breath. "Dad had another family." The world stopped. "What?" "He had an affair that lasted 5 years, with a woman named Patricia. They had a son together. Dad was supporting them financially. That's part of why he gambled. He needed more money to support 2 families." I sat down on the porch steps, my legs giving out. "I have another stepson." "A half-brother," David corrected. "His name is Marcus. He's 45 years old. He knew about us. But Dad asked Patricia not to contact us or you." "Where is he now?" "Here, in town. He's been trying to reach out to us for years. We kept pushing him away because we didn't want to deal with Dad's affair. But Mom, Marcus is a good guy. He didn't ask to be born into this situation." "Does he know about me?" "Yes, and he wants to meet you, if you're willing." I laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. "So let me get this straight. My husband, who I thought died of a heart attack, actually killed himself because he had gambling debts and was supporting a secret second family. 33 years later, his gambling debts led to me being scammed out of my life savings. And now I find out I have a stepson I never knew about who wants to meet me. Did I miss anything?" "Mom, we know this is a lot." "A lot. Karen, this is insane. My entire life has been a lie." "Not all of it. Dad did love you. The affair ended before he died. He chose to stay with you. Because it was easier. Because leaving would have meant divorce and splitting assets and facing the truth. He didn't choose me out of love. He chose me out of convenience." I was yelling now, years of suppressed anger pouring out. "And you 3, you kept all of this from me, for 33 years. Did you ever think I deserved to know the truth about my own life?" "We were trying to protect you," David said quietly. "From what? From reality? From the truth? You don't get to decide what I can handle. I'm your mother, not your child." "You're right," Karen said, crying. "You're absolutely right. We were wrong about all of it. But Mom, we can't change the past. We can only try to do better now." By telling me everything at once. By dumping 33 years of lies on me in one afternoon. "We thought you deserved to know. Before you met Marcus. Before the investigation goes public. Before reporters start calling. We wanted you to hear it from us first." I stood up. "I need time, alone. Don't call me, don't knock on my door, just leave me alone." I went back to my suite and locked the door. For 3 days, I didn't leave. I didn't answer the phone. I didn't respond to knocks. I just sat there processing. Robert had lied to me. My children had lied to me. My entire marriage had been built on secrets. And the fresh start I'd tried to build, that had been destroyed by the same lies that had poisoned my marriage. On the 4th day, there was a knock on my door, different from the timid knocks my children had been making. I opened it to find a man in his mid-40s, with Robert's eyes and his smile. "Mrs. Carter, I'm Marcus, your husband's son. I know this is a terrible time, but I needed to meet you, to tell you I'm sorry for everything." I looked at this man, the living proof of Robert's betrayal, and I felt something unexpected. Not anger, not hatred. Curiosity. "Come in," I said. He sat awkwardly on my couch. "I don't really know what to say. This whole situation is insane," devastating, surreal. All of that. Tell me about your mother, about Patricia. She died 6 years ago. Cancer. She never married. Just raised me alone with Dad's financial support. Did you know about me? About us? Yes, Dad told me when I was 10. Said he had another family, that he loved us both, that it was complicated. Did you believe him? I was 10. I believed everything he said. But as I got older, I realized what he'd done was wrong. To my mom, to you, to all of us. Why did you want to meet me? Because you're part of my history, and because I wanted to say I'm sorry. Not for being born, I can't apologize for existing, but for the pain my existence caused you. I looked at this man, this stranger who was part of my family without my knowledge. It's not your fault, I said finally. You didn't ask to be born into this mess. Neither did you ask to be lied to for 33 years. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus pulled out an envelope. There's something else, something I think you should have. What is it? A letter from my mom. She wrote it before she died. Asked me to give it to you if I ever met you. I wasn't sure I should. But after everything that's happened, I think you deserve to know what she said. He handed me the envelope and stood up. I'll leave you to read it, but Mrs. Carter, if you ever want to talk about Dad or anything else, I'm willing to listen. After he left, I stared at the envelope for a long time. Finally, I opened it. Dear Nadine, we've never met, but I've thought about you every day for 40 years. The wife of the man I loved, the woman I betrayed without ever knowing you. Robert told me about you often, how kind you were, how devoted, how you deserved better than what he was giving you. He was right, you did deserve better, better than a husband who lied, better than the life he gave you. I want you to know that I loved him, but I also want you to know that our affair was wrong. I knew it was wrong, but I was weak and selfish and I loved him anyway. When he died, I was devastated, not just for myself, but for you, because I knew you'd lost him never knowing the truth, and I knew that was partly my fault. I'm dying now, cancer, and I have a lot of time to think about the choices I've made, the people I've hurt. You were one of those people, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If you ever meet my son Marcus, please know that he's a good man, better than his father, better than me. He deserves to know his siblings. He deserves to be part of the family Robert kept him from. I hope you can forgive me, but I'd understand if you can't. I hope your life has been happy. I hope Robert's lies didn't poison everything. I hope you found joy despite the betrayal. I'm sorry. Patricia. I read the letter 3 times. Then I cried, for Robert, for Patricia, for the mess they'd made, for the children caught in the middle, for myself. But somewhere in those tears, something shifted. I'd been holding on to anger for so long. Anger at my children for abandoning me, anger at Robert for lying, anger at myself for being too trusting. But Patricia's letter made me realize something. Everyone in this story had been hurt. Everyone had made mistakes. Everyone was just trying to survive the consequences of choices made decades ago. Including me. I'd bought the beach house trying to escape the pain of being forgotten, and I'd ended up being scammed because of Robert's old debts. But maybe that wasn't the end of the story. Maybe losing the beach house was actually the universe pushing me back toward my family, toward dealing with the past instead of running from it. I picked up my phone and called Karen. Mom, are you okay? No, but I will be. Can you gather everyone? All of you, your brothers, your families, Marcus. I want to talk to all of you. Of course, when? Tomorrow, here, at my suite. It's time we all stopped keeping secrets and started being honest with each other. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for giving us a chance. After I hung up, I sat there thinking about what I'd say. I'd lost my beach house, my savings, my fresh start. But maybe, just maybe, I'd gained something more important. A chance to rebuild my family, not on lies and secrets, but on truth. Even if that truth was painful. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The next afternoon, my small suite was packed with people. Karen and her husband Tom, with their 3 teenage children, Emma, Jake, and Sophia. David and his wife Michelle, with their 2 young boys, Connor and Tyler. Brian and his wife Sophie, with their daughter Emma and their 10-year-old son Lucas. And Marcus, my stepson, Robert's secret son. 9 grandchildren I barely knew, 3 children who'd abandoned me, 1 stepson who was a stranger. All crowded into my living room, waiting to hear what I had to say. I stood in front of them, my hands shaking, my heart pounding. I asked you all here because I'm tired of secrets, I began. For 33 years, I lived with lies I didn't know about. For 15 years, I lived alone thinking my children didn't care about me. And for the past few months, I've been trying to run away from all of it by buying a beach house and starting over. I looked around at all of them. But running away didn't work. The past caught up with me anyway. Robert's gambling debts, his affair, the scams. All of it came back and destroyed the new life I tried to build. Karen started to speak, but I held up my hand. Let me finish. I'm angry. At all of you. At Robert. At myself. I'm angry that I was lied to, that I was forgotten, that I lost everything trying to escape pain that I should have faced years ago. The room was silent. But I'm also tired. Tired of being angry. Tired of being alone. Tired of holding grudges that only hurt me. I looked at my 3 children. Karen, David, Brian, you abandoned me for 15 years. You forgot Mother's Days and birthdays and holidays. You built lives that didn't include me. That hurt. It still hurts. And I'm not ready to pretend it didn't happen. All 3 of them were crying now. But I also see that you're trying. You came looking for me. You're here now. You're trying to make amends. And while I can't forgive you yet, I'm not there yet. I'm willing to try to rebuild something. Slowly, with honesty this time. I turned to Marcus. Marcus, I don't know you. You're a stranger to me. But you're also Robert's son. Part of my family, whether I asked for it or not. Your mother's letter made me realize that you're as much a victim of Robert's lies as I am. So I'm willing to get to know you, if you want that. Marcus nodded, wiping his eyes. I'd like that. Then I looked at the grandchildren. 9 kids ranging from 7 to 17, all watching me with wide eyes. I don't know any of you. I've missed your entire lives. Your first steps, your first words, your birthdays and school plays and soccer games. I can't get those years back. But if you're willing, I'd like to start being part of your lives now. 7-year-old Emma, Brian's daughter, raised her hand like she was in school. Yes, Emma. Grandma Nadine, will you come to my dance recital next week? I'm a butterfly. I smiled through my tears. I would love to come to your dance recital. And my soccer game, 10-year-old Lucas asked. And your soccer game. The older kids were more hesitant, more guarded. They'd been told for years that I didn't exist or didn't care. Undoing that would take time. But it was a start. I sat down, suddenly exhausted. There's one more thing. The beach house. My savings, all of it is basically gone. I have about $170,000 left from the settlement and my remaining savings. Not enough to buy another house. Not enough to live independently the way I wanted. Karen spoke up. Mom, the suite is yours for as long as you want it. No rent, no time limit, just stay, please. I appreciate that, but I can't live on charity. It's not charity, it's family. And Mom, we owe you so much more than a place to live. We owe you 15 years of love and attention and presence. This is the least we can do. David added, and Mom, the FBI investigation into the Brennan family is ongoing. There's still a chance you'll recover more money. It could take years, but there's hope. Hope isn't a plan, I said. I need to figure out what I'm doing with the rest of my life. I'm 71 years old. I can't just sit in this suite and wait for my children to take care of me. Then what do you want to do? Brian asked. I thought about that question. What did I want? For so long, I'd defined myself by other people. Robert's wife, my children's mother. And when those roles were taken from me, I'd tried to define myself by a house, a location, a fresh start. But none of that had worked. I want purpose, I said finally. I want to do something that matters, not just wait around to die. Marcus spoke up. Mrs. Carter, can I tell you something? About the investigation into the Brennan family. What about it? There are other victims. 12 families who lost money like you did. Most of them are elderly. Most of them are alone. And they're scared and confused and don't know how to navigate the legal system. That's terrible, but what does it have to do with me? You could help them. You've been through it. You know what it feels like. You could be an advocate. Help them understand the process, connect them with resources, support them through the investigation. I stared at him. You want me to help the other victims? I think you'd be good at it, and I think it would give you purpose. Turn your experience into something positive. David nodded. That's actually a great idea, Mom. The FBI has a victim services coordinator, but they're overwhelmed. Having someone who's been through it personally, someone who can relate to what these victims are experiencing, that would be invaluable. I thought about it, helping other people who'd been scammed, using my pain for something good. How would I even start? I can connect you with the victim services coordinator, David said. Introduce you to some of the other victims. See if there's interest in forming a support group or something. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of interest, of purpose. Okay, let's try it. Over the next few weeks, I connected with the other victims of the Brennan scam. There was Margaret, 84, who'd lost $400,000, money she'd saved to leave to her grandchildren. There was James, 77, a widower who'd lost $200,000 and now couldn't afford the assisted living facility he needed. There was Carol and Frank, a couple in their 80s who'd lost their entire retirement savings. All of them scared, confused, ashamed. I understood exactly how they felt. We started meeting weekly at a community center, just talking at first, sharing our stories, crying together, supporting each other. Then we started taking action. I helped Margaret file for victim compensation, connected James with resources for affordable senior housing, worked with Carol and Frank to navigate the FBI investigation. And slowly, I found purpose again. Not in a beach house or a fresh start, but in helping people who needed it. My relationship with my children improved too, slowly. Karen and I started having coffee every Tuesday morning, just the two of us, talking, getting to know each other again. David came to the victim support group meetings to answer legal questions and update everyone on the investigation. Brian invited me to family dinners every Sunday. At first it was awkward, but gradually it got easier. I went to Emma's dance recital, Lucas's soccer games, Jake's band concert, Sophia's debate tournament. I started being a grandmother. And Marcus became part of the family too. He'd join us for Sunday dinners. He'd call to check on me. He brought his own children, my step-grandchildren, to meet me. It wasn't perfect. There were still hurts that needed healing, still conversations that were hard, still moments when I felt the weight of those 15 lost years. But we were trying. 6 months after I moved into Karen's suite, David called with news. Mom, the FBI recovered some assets from the Brennan family. They're liquidating everything and distributing it to victims. How much? Looks like victims will get back about 40% of their losses. For you, that's about $270,000. I did the math. $270,000 recovered, plus the $150,000 settlement I'd already received, plus my $20,000 in remaining savings. Total, $440,000. Still a loss of $240,000 from my original $680,000, but better than I'd expected. When will I get the money? Could be 6 months, could be a year. There's a lot of legal process, but Mom, it's coming. That evening, I sat on Karen's back patio, thinking about what I'd do with $440,000. I could buy a small condo, live independently again. Or I could stay here, with my family, and use the money for something else. The next Sunday at family dinner, I made an announcement. I've decided what I'm going to do with the money from the FBI recovery. Everyone stopped eating and looked at me. I'm going to start a nonprofit to help elderly people avoid scams, to educate them about fraud, to provide support when they become victims, and to advocate for stronger laws to protect seniors. Karen smiled. Mom, that's perfect. Do you need help? Actually, yes. I need someone good with finances to help set it up, someone with legal expertise to navigate the nonprofit process, and someone good with technology to build a website and social media presence. I looked at my 3 children. David, will you help with the legal stuff? Absolutely. Brian, you work in it, right? Can you help with the technology side? I'd be honored. And Karen, you were an accountant before you had kids. Can you help set up the financial structure? Of course, Mom. Marcus spoke up. Mrs. Carter, I'd like to help too. I'm a graphic designer. I can create materials, design the website, make everything look professional. I looked around the table at my family, fractured and complicated and imperfect, but trying. Thank you, all of you. 1 year after losing my beach house, I stood in a small office space I'd rented with my recovered funds. The sign on the door read, Safe Harbor Senior Protection, founded by Nadine Carter. My children had helped me set it up. Marcus had designed the logo. The victim support group had become our first board of directors. We'd launched a website with resources about common scams. We offered free workshops at senior centers. We'd lobbied for new legislation to protect elderly victims of fraud. And most importantly, we'd helped over 50 seniors avoid or recover from scams in our first year. It wasn't the fresh start I'd planned. It wasn't the beach house and the ocean views and the peaceful retirement I'd dreamed of. But it was meaningful. It was purpose. It was making a difference. On Mother's Day, 2 years after my children had shown up on my old doorstep, I woke up to breakfast in bed. Karen had organized it. All 3 of my children were there, along with their spouses and all 9 grandchildren, plus Marcus and his family. 17 people crammed into Karen's house, making pancakes and burning bacon and laughing. Happy Mother's Day, Grandma, the grandchildren shouted. They'd made cards, terrible, beautiful homemade cards with misspelled words and messy drawings. I loved them. After breakfast, we all went to the beach. Not my lost beach house, I'd never gone back there, but a public beach an hour away. The grandchildren played in the waves. The adults set up chairs and umbrellas. We ate sandwiches and chips and got sunburned. It was chaotic and loud and imperfect. And it was everything I'd been missing for 15 years. That evening, as the sun set over the ocean, Karen sat beside me. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret it, buying the beach house, losing all that money? I thought about that question. Did I regret it? No, I said finally. I don't regret it. The beach house taught me something important. What's that? That I can survive anything. Losing Robert, being forgotten by my children, being scammed, starting over at 71. I survived all of it. And not just survived, I built something meaningful from it. Safe harbor. Yes, and this, us, our family. If I hadn't bought that beach house, hadn't gotten scammed, hadn't lost everything, you all wouldn't have come looking for me. We wouldn't have had those hard conversations. We wouldn't have rebuilt this. Karen was crying. So you're saying losing the beach house was worth it? I'm saying everything happens for a reason. I spent 15 Mother's Days alone because I was too passive, too willing to wait for you to remember me, too afraid to demand what I deserved. And now I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not passive. I'm living my life on my terms, with purpose, with family, with meaning. I'm so proud of you, Mom, and I'm so sorry it took me so long to see how strong you are. I hugged my daughter. You see it now, that's what matters. As the sun disappeared below the horizon, I looked around at my family. At David teaching Connor how to build a sandcastle. At Brian chasing Lucas through the waves. At Marcus showing his kids the shells they'd collected. At 9 grandchildren who knew me now, who called me grandma, who made me cards on Mother's Day. At 3 children who made terrible mistakes but were trying every day to do better. I'd spent 15 Mother's Days alone. But I wasn't alone anymore. I hadn't bought just a beach house 2 years ago. I'd bought myself, my independence, my courage. And when that house was taken from me, I discovered something more valuable. I discovered that I didn't need a perfect beach house or a fresh start in a new town to be happy. I just needed to stop being invisible, to demand to be seen, to build a life that mattered. The beach house was gone. The money was mostly gone. The fresh start I'd planned was gone. But I'd gained something infinitely more valuable. I'd gained myself back, my voice, my strength, my family. And at 73 years old, I was finally living the life I deserved. Not the life I'd planned, but the life I'd built from the ashes of everything I'd lost. That evening, back at Karen's house, all the grandchildren gathered in my suite. "Grandma, will you tell us a story?" Emma asked. I looked at these 9 children who barely knew me 2 years ago and were now such a huge part of my life. "What kind of story?" "A true story, about when you were young." So I told them about Robert, not the lies and the affair and the gambling, but the good parts. The man who'd made me laugh, who'd been a good father despite his demons, who'd loved them even if he'd been flawed. I told them about raising their parents alone after Robert died, about working 2 jobs and making sacrifices and choosing to be strong. I told them about the lonely years, about being forgotten, about feeling invisible. And I told them about the beach house, about taking a risk, about starting over, about losing everything and finding something better. "So you're not sad about losing the beach house?" teenage Sophia asked. "No, sweetheart, because if I still had that beach house, I'd be living there alone. I wouldn't have safe harbor. I wouldn't have Sunday dinners with all of you. I wouldn't have this." "This is better than a beach house," 7-year-old Emma asked skeptically. I laughed. "Yes, baby, this is so much better than a beach house." "Why?" "Because a house is just a place. But family, even imperfect, complicated family, that's home." That night, after everyone had left, I sat alone in my suite. Not the beach house I'd dreamed of, not the independent retirement I'd planned, not the fresh start I'd saved for. But mine nonetheless. I pulled out my journal and wrote, "Dear Nadine of 2 years ago, you're about to make a big decision. You're going to buy a beach house with all your savings. You're going to think this is your fresh start, your escape, your happy ending. It's not. You're going to lose that house. You're going to lose most of your money. You're going to feel devastated and stupid and lost. But here's what you need to know. Losing that beach house is going to be the best thing that ever happens to you. Because it's going to force you to stop running, stop being passive, stop waiting for other people to give you the life you deserve. It's going to force you to demand better from your children, to build relationships with your grandchildren, to create purpose from pain. It's going to force you to become the woman you were always meant to be. Strong, purposeful, unafraid. So when you're standing in that real estate office, about to sign away your life savings, do it. Buy the beach house. Take the risk. And when you lose it, because you will lose it, know that you're not losing everything. You're gaining yourself. Love. The Nadine you'll become. I closed the journal and looked around my small suite. Tomorrow, I had a victim support group meeting at Safe Harbor. I'd committed to speaking at a senior center about fraud prevention. I had Sunday dinner with my family. I had Emma's dance recital and Lucas's soccer game and Sophia's debate tournament. I had purpose, I had family, I had meaning. I'd spent every Mother's Day alone for 15 years. Until I bought a beach house. And lost it. And found everything I'd been missing. If this story touched you, Please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.